Hey there, future tram operator. Ever thought about what it takes to keep a city moving?
It's more than just steering a vehicle.
We're diving deep into the world of tram drivers today.
We'll unpack what employers are really looking for in those interviews.
You've got that big interview coming up, and we're here to help you nail it.
From those everyday safety checks to handling the unexpected, even the rowdiest passengers, right?
Oh, we'll get to those colorful passages a little later, but first, let's talk about the actual job.
Being a tram driver is more than just, well, driving.
It's about keeping a city pulsing.
You're a guide, a problem solver, sometimes even a calming presence. And the demand for tram drivers, it's really something.
That's fascinating. It's a career path that requires technical skills, but also that knack for dealing with people.
Exactly. You have to be comfortable with the mechanics, but also create a safe, comfortable experience for the riders.
So let's jump right into those interview questions. Imagine you're sitting across from the hiring manager. They ask, "Can you tell us about your experience operating trams?" Where do you even begin?
That's your moment to shine. Start by highlighting those qualifications, any official licenses. Don't just say, I have my license.
Right, because there are different types, right?
Exactly. Mention the specific type, when you got it, any additional training. They want to see you're serious.
It shows commitment.
Absolutely.
Now, what if someone listening is fresh out of tram driver school? They might not have on-the-job experience. What then?
That's where those transferable skills come in. Think back to past jobs, even if they seem unrelated at first.
Like what? Give us an example.
Were you a delivery driver navigating a busy city? Did you work in a fast-paced customer service role?
I see, so even if it wasn't driving a tram.
Exactly. Did you have to make quick decisions under pressure? Handle difficult customers, maybe? These experiences, they show you can handle stress, you can think on your feet.
You're basically connecting the dots for them, showing how your past translates to this role.
Right.
Now let's talk safety. It's a big deal, and for obvious reasons. How do you ensure the safety of your passengers and other road users?
This is where you go beyond just saying, I'm a careful driver, Talk about specific actions. Do you double-check your mirrors before moving?
What about in bad weather?
Exactly. Are you extra cautious then? Employers want to see that you understand, that you're proactive.
It's like the difference between saying, I'm a good cook, and actually describing your award-winning lasagna recipe.
I like that.
Speaking of details, what about pre-trip checks? It's something tram drivers do regularly, but many people might not know what that even is.
Excellent point. For those who aren't familiar, it's like giving your tram a quick physical before each shift, inspecting everything.
Everything.
From the brakes and lights to the doors, the emergency equipment, gotta make sure it's in tip-top shape for those passengers.
So even something as seemingly simple as a pre-trip inspection, it's a chance to really highlight your proactive attitude towards safety during your interview.
Absolutely. And you know what can help you craft the perfect answer about pre-trip checks?
What's that?
RoleCatcher.
Our favorite interview prep tool.
It can tailor your answer to the specific job description. Let's say the listing emphasizes preventative maintenance. You can use RoleCatcher to scan your answer for those keywords, even get suggestions on how to strengthen that part of your response.
That's incredibly helpful, especially if you get nervous during interviews and forget to mention those things.
Yeah.
Speaking of tricky situations, let's talk about those colorful passengers we mentioned earlier. How would you handle a disruptive person on your tram?
Okay, so now's when your ability to stay calm under pressure really shines. Remember, de-escalation is key.
You don't want things to escalate, obviously.
Right. You want to show you can assess the situation, listen to the passenger without putting yourself at risk, of course, and knowing when to get supervisors or authorities involved if it comes to that.
It's about finding that balance, being approachable, but maintaining authority.
Exactly.
Okay, next up, let's say the interviewer asks, how do you stay current on changes in tram operations and technology? What comes to mind?
This one's about showing you're committed to continuous learning. You're not just coasting along, you're actively trying to expand your knowledge.
So how do you show that?
This could be mentioning professional development courses, industry publications like Tram Weekly.
Tram Weekly, is that a real thing?
It is. Or even online forums where you discuss the latest advancements with other tram drivers. It's about passion.
Showing them you're passionate enough to stay ahead of the curve. Now imagine the interviewer throws a curveball. They ask, can you describe a time you had to make a split-second decision while operating a tram? That can feel intimidating.
It can. But don't panic. The STAR method is your best friend here. Situation, task, action, result.
Break down.
Think back to a time, maybe not even as a tram driver, Anytime you had to make a quick decision under pressure. Lay out the situation, what you were tasked with doing, the action you took, and the positive result you achieved.
And if you're drawing a blank on trans-Pacific experiences.
Think back to those transferable skills we talked about. Did you have to react quickly while driving in, I don't know, challenging weather? Or maybe you had to think on your feet to resolve a conflict in a past customer service role?
Right, it's about showcasing your quick thinking and problem-solving skills, even if you don't have years of experience as a tram driver yet. Now, we've covered a lot of ground already, but before we move on to part 2 of this deep dive, I want to circle back to RoleCatcher for a moment. I know it can feel like a game changer, especially when you're prepping for these interviews.
It really can be. Imagine a massive library of potential interview questions, all categorized by profession, but goes beyond just questions. It's like having a personal coach in your pocket.
Exactly. We've talked about how it can help you tailor your answers, make sure you're hitting those key words. But one of the coolest things, you can actually record or type in your answers, and the AI will analyze them.
The AI is amazing. It analyzes for tone, for clarity.
It's like having that personal coach give you feedback on your delivery, help you sound more confident.
Exactly.
That's incredible. It's like having a secret weapon to help you fine-tune those answers.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't want to give away all the secrets just yet. When we come back, we'll uncover more of those challenging questions, explore additional career insights specific to becoming a tram driver, and of course, delve deeper into how RoleCatcher can be your secret weapon to landing that dream job. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. We're ready to roll on with our deep dive into becoming a tram driver.
We covered some really important stuff before the break.
We did, those tough interview questions, and of course, how RoleCatcher's AI can help you really stand out.
That personalized feedback can make all the difference. But let's get back to the tram, shall we? We have to talk about customer service. It's about more than just getting people from point A to point B.
Exactly.
So how would you answer this one? How do you ensure you provide excellent customer service to passengers?
It's all about going above and beyond. Think clear announcements, a friendly attitude.
Being helpful.
Yes. Genuinely wanting to help those who might need an extra hand.
Someone with a stroller, maybe an elderly passenger.
A visitor who looks lost. You're the face of the tram service, remember?
It's those little things that can really make a difference in someone's day. Now, the RoleCatcher Career Guide for tram drivers, it really emphasizes the importance of continuous learning. Why is that so important in this field?
Well, think about it. Tram technology, it's always evolving. New braking systems, signaling upgrades.
Things are always changing.
Exactly. Even eco-friendly driving tactics. Employers want to know you're committed to learning, to staying on top of it all.
So mentioning workshops, industry publications, online forums, all of that shows you're invested. Speaking of experience, here's a question that goes beyond everyday situations. Can you describe a time you had to deal with an emergency situation while operating a tram?
Hopefully you haven't encountered too many of those.
Let's hope not. But they're trying to assess how you handle pressure. Remember the STAR method?
Of course.
Even if you haven't had a major emergency on a tram specifically.
You can pull from other parts of your life.
Exactly. Maybe you had to react quickly while driving in, I don't know, really bad weather.
Or maybe you stayed calm and navigated a stressful situation in a past customer service role.
Right. The point is, you can handle pressure, think clearly, and put safety first.
Exactly. Now, we've talked about the practical skills, but being a tram driver, it also takes focus, especially during those long shifts.
You're right. Interviewers will want to know how you maintain your concentration. They might ask something like, how do you stay alert and focused while operating a tram for extended periods?
That's a really good question, and easy to overlook.
Because maintaining your focus, it's essential.
For everyone's safety.
This is where you can talk about strategies. Maybe you take short breaks when possible. Maybe you have some mindfulness technique.
Or maybe you listen to calming music on your break. The key is to show them you're proactive.
You're thinking about staying sharp. And RoleCatcher can even help you brainstorm those strategies. Their career guides often include tips for these kinds of roles, high concentration.
They might even have specific advice just for tram drivers.
Breathing exercises you can do between stops, things like that.
It's like having this whole toolbox of resources.
Now let's dive back into those interview questions. This one's about attention to detail. How do you ensure that you comply with all safety regulations and protocols while operating a tram? It seems straightforward, but how do you make it resonate?
It's about conveying a deep respect for those rules, showing that you've really internalized them.
Not just memorizing.
Right. You can mention your pre-trip inspection routine, how thorough you are.
That's how you stay updated on any changes, right?
Exactly. And your willingness to ask questions if something's unclear.
So it's about showing them safety is a core value.
Absolutely.
Speaking of communication, which is key for safety, of course, here's a question that touches on that. How do you ensure effective communication with both passengers and team members while operating a tram? We've talked about passenger communication, but what about behind the scenes?
Being a tram driver isn't a solo job. You're part of a team.
Right, working together to make sure things run smoothly.
And safely. Clear communication with dispatch, with signaling teams, maintenance crews, it's all important.
So you want to highlight how well you use the communication equipment, your understanding of the procedures, and how you report any issues.
Clearly and on time. It's about being reliable.
Be a team player.
Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to RoleCatcher's massive database of career information. We've covered a lot, but what's the key takeaway you want listeners to remember about how this platform can help them land their dream tram driver job?
It really is a game changer. For anyone serious about being a tram driver, it's like having this personalized toolkit, It takes you through every step.
From really understanding the job to prepping for those interviews, knowledge is power, right?
And that's how you get that competitive edge. And the best part is, it's always being updated.
Latest insights, interview trends, you name it.
But let's not forget, a successful interview, it also comes down to you, your passion, your preparedness.
Absolutely.
Speaking of which, we have one final question to tackle. What are your salary expectations for this tram driver role? Now, this one can be a little awkward.
It can, but it's all about being ready, knowing your worth. Do your homework before the interview.
Like what kind of homework?
Check out resources like that RoleCatcher Career Guide we talked about. See what the average salaries are.
For tram drivers in your area, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And factor in your experience, any special skills you bring to the table.
Right. It's about finding that balance, aiming high, but also being realistic.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to ask, what's one thing you wish someone had told you before your first interview for a tram driver position?
Oh, that's easy. Relax. Be yourself. Let that enthusiasm shine through.
Because they can sense that.
Right. Oh, absolutely. They're not just looking for someone who can drive a tram. They want someone who's passionate about public transportation, who takes pride in making that ride enjoyable for every passenger.
It's about the why, not just the what. Show them you really want to be a tram driver.
Exactly.
And even if this interview doesn't work out, don't get discouraged.
Every interview, it's a learning experience.
Take that feedback, keep practicing, and keep at it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
To everyone out there ready to get behind the controls of a tram, good luck. We're rooting for you. Remember the tips we've shared? Check out RoleCatcher and go into that interview with confidence.
And passion.
Keep those trams rolling.